So today I'm just going to give you a few little tips about how I did some of the cards for our May 2022 limited edition rubber stamp kit. It comes with 7 stamps, 2 hummingbirds and 2 flowers and 3 sentiments to go with it in a nice little storage case. And these are some of the cards that come with the instruction sheet. This kit is only available this month. So at the end of the month, it'll go away and a new one will come. For this card, I really like to show people with detailed stamps how many different things you can do with them to get different looks, because I think we get really stuck in, stamping and coloring, or stamping in black and coloring. And so in this case, I actually stamped in purple and then highlighted the image with white color pencil. It's a really different kind of look, but it's super easy. And if you're not in the mood to color something and take a long time to do that, this is a great alternative. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. I like to do this kind of technique on kind of a medium tone paper. So in this case, I'm using a craft colored paper. And I'll just show you quickly how to do the basic technique. Also, an interesting thing about doing this is that colors, when you're putting them onto a colored piece of paper, really look different. So this purple is actually a really bright lavender, but when you put it onto a brown piece of paper, it shows differently. That's one of the cool things about using different colored inks on here. And I really wanted that sort of, I don't know, muted look rather than a bright purple. So I'm going to stamp this with my platform. I really, really like stamping, and this paper's a little bit rough, so there's a little bit, you can see kind of a little bit distressed looking, which actually is kind of a nice look too if you're going for that, but I really want this to be nice and clean. So I love using platform because I can always get a beautiful image from a platform because I can do it twice. So it's my favorite thing about platforms. And so there's my stamped flower. And what I'm going to do is just take a regular, this is a white watercolor pencil. You could use a regular white pencil too. I just couldn't find my regular ones. And then you're just going to go in and highlight the image. So I like to color a little bit between the lines because the white is fairly opaque, which is why it shows up on the paper. So it will kind of cover over the fine lines on the stamp if you get too much in there. But I'm not super exacting about it. And you can see how that just makes it pop a little bit. It's an easy little technique, and just, if you've got a bunch of, we do a lot of detailed stamps. If you've got a bunch of detailed stamps laying around, it works so well on pretty much any of those. Another thing you can do too, and maybe I'll do this some other time, but you can also use that as a base and then color on top of it, because it gives you that white, so your colors are bright. Whereas just like the purple ink, if you were to color onto the brown, most of the time the brown will come through, and so all of your colors will be muted by that. But you can kind of lay down a white ground and then put color on top of that, which is a cool way to use a different color for your stamping. And I like the also the ability to sort of stamp something in a different way. And these stamps actually look really pretty, even just stamped by that if I hadn't done this highlighting. But you get the idea, and you can see the finished card. But see how easy it is? You're just going to do a little bit of coloring. I'm not doing this particularly exacting. I'm just going to put a little color in the little ridges of this flower. So I won't do that the whole thing, but this is the idea. The card ends up looking like this, which I just think is a nice soft look. The other thing I want to show you is this card where I used a pale pink ink. I love the fact that we have these really light colored inks because I like to do backgrounds in them. But I'm really picky about how my backgrounds look. Like, I don't want them to look really awkward. I want to fill the space really nicely. I love to use a platform, like I said earlier, because I really like that ability to kind of double stamp it and make sure I get a really good impression. And it's really kind of hard to move things around really accurately when you're trying to lay it out. So the trick I did here was to put my stamp on a stamp block and just a piece of scrap paper. And then I worked on the composition of it doesn't matter how this turns out because I'm really just looking to figure out the composition of my background. So I kind of make myself just a little bit of a mock-up for it. So I can kind of like get things to look nice and butt up nicely and really make a nice pattern that really covers the card, which is kind of what I was going for here. So I'm gonna do that on this scrap piece, just loosely. And then, let's see how I like to move them around so they're not all facing the same direction. It always looks better that way. So I'm gonna do this. Now that I've made this kind of nice template for how I want this to lay out, I'm gonna get my platform back. And I'm gonna take my little mock-up card, and because this thing has going off the edges, I'm gonna have to turn it. I'm gonna put it on my platform kind of in the middle. Find a place to put my magnet just to hold it in place. Actually, I'm gonna hold it in place now, and then what I'm gonna do is take my stamp, my little naked rubber stamp here, and put it over the image, kind of about where I stamped it, right? Then I'm gonna pick that up with my platform. And now, I'm just gonna lay the actual piece of paper I'm trying to stamp on top of this. So I'm gonna keep that in the same position, because that's important. And then just put my card on top of that. These magnets are fun. Okay, so I'm gonna do that to hold that in place. Now I know it's going in the same spot that I wanted it to go in. And I will stamp that. And again, hit it twice, because that is how I like to do it. Then I will take my paper off, reposition my stamp on another piece, so that section. Hold this down so it doesn't move around. Pick the stamp up again, put my piece of paper back where it was, and then stamp it on the really nice piece again. There's just an easy way to kind of get the positioning the way you want it to be. So you can see, you can do that with the other two things. But that's how I made this. So it's an easy, if you're doing an assembly line, you can always do that and just do each flower on 4 or 5 different pieces, and then move it and position it and do it again on 4 or 5 different pieces. So that's my tip on how to kind of get a really nice layout there and not ruin a bunch of good cardstock trying to do that. I a lot of times just do it on scrap paper. And that's my tips for the day.